I think we're good. There we go. Welcome, everyone. It's Ash with TC Spotlight on Unraveling Tennessee. Today, we're going to talk about Aaron Shane Key. But before we go into things, there are just a few things that I want to go over with Lisa to reiterate, to make very clear of some things given the situation at hand. You know, we have what has appeared and said to be a suicide. And we have talked very, very deeply. Lisa has been on here before. We have gone over very extensively what happened to Aaron that day. And we have kind of gone over some motives. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those motives. But there are a few things that I want to make clear before we go into those. So welcome, Lisa. I would say I'm happy to have you here, but just for the circumstances at the same time. I wish it wasn't these circumstances.
I'm glad to be here.
You know, for a lot of people looking at from the outside, and I made a post about it, if you kind of just read the headline of it all, you know, man commits suicide, mom doesn't believe it. You kind of just have mixed feelings, understandably. You know, a lot of people may look at that and kind of shy away as just, oh, you know, she's just another grieving mom who can't accept that her son did this to himself. So I kind of want to take some time to go over some things before we go into that, to make it very clear that you did have that time. You did understand how those parents felt.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you so just to make everything very clear. So the first thing I want to ask is, how far away from Aaron do you live?
From where he died at approximately 288 miles.
Now, when did you find out Aaron had hung himself, supposedly?
It was between 6:30 and 7 p.m. April the 5th, 2019.
Which I think, if I'm correct, would have been a Friday.
Yes, ma'am.
So, when did you arrive in Tennessee?
Around 10 o'clock the following Monday night.
When did you first see Aaron?
Tuesday morning, April. Let's see, I think it would have been April the 9th. At the funeral home. It was somewhere around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Now, after that, when did you go out to where Aaron was supposed to have hung himself?
Immediately after I left the funeral home.
Now, so the reason why I go over that is for everybody out there that are just, you know, you weren't immediately up there. You had all of this time to process the fact that your son had hung himself.
Yeah, there was no need in me driving all the way up there. You know, as soon as it happened, I was at a place where I could sit, be quiet, scream, yell, process it. You know, I had time to make peace with it. In all actuality, if he had actually done it, it'd been a lot easier than the road I've traveled.
So you, from Friday to about Monday night, not even Monday night, a little bit, you said that you went to the funeral home around Tuesday morning.
That would have been on Tuesday, after the Tuesday morning after, let's say, Friday, 5th, 6th. Yes, it had been the 9th. Yeah, I went to the funeral home. That was when I got there on the 8th. It was about 10 o'clock. Like I said, it's driving by yourself. it's going close to 300 miles.
Yeah.
A lot of time to think and drive, process, the
So you went
events.
up there, fully aware, and you've come to terms that
Oh, when I arrived, I knew, in my, it was in me that he had hung himself. The girl, his life had been tough with her, but he loved her. And love sometimes makes you do crazy things.
yeah.
And he was a strong man, but everybody has a weak point. There's something in their lives, Some people have the ability to take their lives, while others don't. And this girl had put him through a lot. So yeah,
It was a
I
pos. It
made
was a,
peace. I knew that uh I just, I knew he was in a better place. I knew he had done it at that point. I knew he had done it up until the point, I had a couple of calls
I was gonna
on
say,
Monday
so
night.
before you actually seen Aaron, what were some of the things that you were hearing in the atmosphere once you arrived up there? Because that's when things really started changing for you.
Uh, well, Monday night when I got there, I talked to his dad. Of course, his dad had spent 3.5, 4 hours down there at the scene when it happened. His dad never seen him hanging. Actually, they wouldn't even let his dad near him. Uh, I had a couple of calls. It was pretty late when I got in up there that told me some people to talk to that he didn't do it. And, all I give that credit to was that, small area backwoods rumors,
Yeah.
uh, up until I went to the funeral home and for whatever reason ended up in the bombing room with him.
Well, of
Up
course.
until that point, I believed 100% that he had hung himself. And after I looked at him, you can't hang yourself and sustain the damage that was done to him. I mean,
What were some of the
unexplainable
things that you
cuts.
see?
Yeah, I mean, he had a cut that run from right here down through his eyelid past the corner of his right eye. The skin just laid down over his cheek. His eyeball was deflated. His nose, you could clearly see, was broken. And there was a line, I still don't know what it is, that runs straight across his forehead. I don't know, I have my idea what caused it now, but then I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
When I saw him, the only thing had been done to him was he had been bathed. And I mean, the bruising, the cut, there was more than just the big cut. I mean, see, he'd been beaten, from the bruising on his face. It was really bad. But the other side of his face wasn't just exactly right either. I can't put my finger on what it was. Still, I think about it. It just, there's
Yeah.
nothing about the body that was on that table looked like my son. And I looked for marks on his neck. I mean, they had the sheet folded down probably about 4 inches below his shoulders. I couldn't even see the Y incision where they're supposed to do, when they do the autopsies. But I looked close. I mean, the lights were bright. I couldn't find any marks on his neck. I couldn't even find a cowlick that had always been in his hair on the front of his hairline. I couldn't even find it. And my thing is, I'm thinking this isn't my son. This don't look like him. It don't have his cowlick. And when I looked down the table, his left hand was on top of the sheet. There was a tattoo that I recognized on his ring finger. That's the only way I knew that that was my son. His right earlobe had been, he had a diamond earring he always wore. It had been ripped completely out. The earring wasn't there. Uh, and I just turned to the mortician. I said, "Do you see any marks on his neck?" He said, "I can't find any." And then he asked me if he'd been in a fight, and I said, "I can't tell you right now. I don't know." He said, "Well, it looks like he put up one hell of a fight." And he added, he said, "In 25 years, he said, I've seen a lot of hangings." He said, "I've never seen nothing like this." So after seeing Aaron, I went out to where it supposedly happened at, and it was just too high up
Now
because,
I'm gonna show.
okay,
This is what you would have seen when you entered.
yeah, to this middle pole here that you're showing in the picture, uh, and the rope's hanging there.
Mm-hmm.
That rope, that is 16, roughly 16 feet off the ground, and maybe a little bit higher. In the olden days, this shed, it was used to store like tractors and stuff like that in. They had the real high tops on them. Because this gentleman, the man that owned the property, is a large parcel of land. But if you look at it, from what rope was around his neck in the crime scene photos, and what rope's right here, this rope right here is approximately 47 inches long. With what was on him, what was showed on him, which was hanging real loose around his neck, they could have not got to him to cut him down.
Mm-mm.
And it was too far out from the pole. Those, if you look back at the picture you had a while ago, they
Well, I have this
called
one.
the lattice. That lattice is on 2 foot to 30-inch centers. That's the way they usually build them up there. And if you count them out, he couldn't have reached it. He couldn't have reached out, and he had to hold on to this pole with his left hand, run that rope around, tie a slip knot. His right hand was broken. His right wrist was broken. He couldn't have stood on the pole down there. He had to climb and hold on.
As somebody who's broken both of their wrists, there's no way.
No,
There's no way.
and and I still at this point, after I looked at it, of course the rope was down by the time I got there. A friend had her brother take it down, and she give it to me Monday night when I got there.
Because the police, when they came out to the scene, left behind this portion of the rope.
Yes,
That's how you have it.
Yes,
And it's
exactly.
in your possession to this day.
And I sat and I've thought about it for months. They left his bloody hat when his dad dropped him off. He had on a brand new camouflage Realtree hat. I just happened to look around, and it was laying on the ground.
After them
And
being
I asked his dad.
hours,
Excuse me.
the Ellie, they were all out there for about 8 hours.
Well, yeah. Actually, turns out it may have been a little bit longer than that. But that I'm positive of 8 hours.
But then they did not take the top portion in the hat.
No,
They didn't find the hat. You found the hat.
Right. A friend of mine also found a liquor bottle at the scene, which was not what he drank. Now, Aaron did drink, but he had a half a pint bottle in his back pocket, the law enforcement officer told me. And he said it was just barely under a half. His blood alcohol, it had been more than 45 hours when they done the autopsy on him to uh when it had occurred.
Mhm.
His blood alcohol was still 1.29. He had been with his dad all day, and his dad said he was nowhere near drunk or impaired when he dropped him off. And the blood alcohol dissipates, even
Yeah.
after death. And for it to have been that high, he would have been too drunk at the time of it happening to even been able to
Even
climb up there. And that was pointed out to me recently. And I was still thinking, well, maybe he did do it. But after I got to hear the 911 calls, I got to hear the girlfriend's interview. That's when it absolutely dawned on me there's no way that he done it, because the girlfriend stated him and her had gotten a fight in the house. He slapped her. She flew across the table and hit her head. Then he grabbed her, took her outside, and said, "Here, you're going to watch this." Climbed up and supposedly hung himself. In her interview, she said that he, after, we got the rope fixed and he hung himself, she said that she got his feet back over to the rafter where he had stepped off of and got one of them hung. And then she said he swung back out, but she couldn't get him to swing back in with that 1 foot hung. Now, how can you swing back out if 1 foot's still hung?
exactly.
And she said that he was pushing her with his hands and feet, pushing her off. His neck would have been tore all to pieces. When you hang
Yeah.
yourself or your air is restricted, it's a natural instinct to grab and pull and tug at the rope, which would have meant scratch marks on his neck. There were no scratch marks. They didn't even have to use makeup on his neck. There was nothing to cover up. He did not have the upside down V always in a hanging. It's always there from a rope.
And
And
more
I mean, there were no marks right here because of his size and weight. That rope would have pulled up right around here, right
yeah.
behind his ears. No marks nowhere around through there.
And
So,
and the most important thing that I want to point out here is, during with the girlfriend's altercation that she said that happened, Aaron didn't break his neck.
no,
So he
the
didn't die
autopsy,
immediately.
the autopsy reports that states the hyoid bone was not broken. He did not have petechiae. He did not have a swollen tongue. His neck was not broken. Anything that goes along with self-hanging, he didn't have. None of it. Autopsy report shows he said he was 6'2". He's 6'6". Said his weight was 208. He was 245 pounds. Aaron was the biggest he had ever been in his life. He wore 38 in size pants in the waist.
I mean, I'm gonna pop up this picture here. He was a tall, buff built
Yes.
guy.
And his autopsy report also said he had severe emphysema and something to do with something wrong with an artery to his heart. Aaron had legs. Aaron was always an athlete. Had huge legs. He walked 8 or 10 miles every day. And somebody with that kind of emphysema, I don't think can walk that far. I might be wrong. But the autopsy was just like it was a report on somebody else. It was like it wasn't there. There was so many things that were on there that weren't right. It was just like it was on somebody else. And, we caught those few things. But that is the reason I know people think it'd be, I'm not wanting to accept this. It would be a whole lot easier
Yeah.
to accept this than to have statement after statement after statement telling what happened down there that I tried to give law enforcement. They would not take.
I mean, as a mother myself, I would almost want to believe that he hung himself versus there was a lot of people there that day, and
Yes, and see, that's the
none
big
of them
thing.
speaking.
The
I can't
big
imagine
thing
how that
is,
feels.
see, the big thing in all this is the detectives spoke and said that only Karen and Aaron were there by themselves. That's what I knew for 6 months up until I listened to the 911 calls, the DA's office. Me, my daughter, and another lady went in and listened to it. And clearly stating, the young lady who was on the phone said, there's 5 of them up there fighting. That
Now, I want to point out before you found this information out, the coroner or the coroner, the medical examiner, stated that it looked like he had been in a fight.
No, that was the mortician
The
said that.
mortician, okay.
Yeah,
And
the
then
mortician.
flash forward in the 911, the information you were receiving.
Yeah, then when I listened to that call, I said, no, whoa. Actually, one of the district attorneys, it was a lady in there with us when we was listening to it. I said, wait a minute. And she stopped it. I said, we were told only Aaron and Karen were there. I said, that call clearly shows that wasn't the fact. And she said, well, I don't know, and started it again. But when Karen said that he was pushing her off with his feet and hands, that meant he was fighting her, which would have tore his neck. The
Yeah.
skin on your neck is
Oh,
some of the
I can only
thinnest skin
imagine.
on your body.
Mm-hmm.
You know how easy it is to put a hickey on your skin.
Or even just
That
the rope or of it just
right,
moving back and forth, something.
exactly. And when you think about, when your area is constricted, you automatically it's just an instinct to try to loosen whatever's on your neck away. Aaron's neck would have had fingernail scratches from his own fingers. And there were no marks on his neck. Now, the autopsy report said there was a faint purplish mark. I believe I've sent you a copy of the report
Yeah.
that was down here, way down here. Now, see, like I said, his height and weight, that rope was going to
Wouldn't have
snap
been,
up
yeah.
around his chin and his neck. And if you zoom in on that rope on that beam, you can clearly see the knot, and the rope never tightened around that beam. And it's a slip knot.
Yeah.
Aaron, you
Mm-hmm.
can't tie. Can you tie a slip knot with one hand? I
Mm.
can't. And the rope would not have raveled that much. It wouldn't have. It wouldn't have. I've had too many crime scene investigators look at this and say there's no possible way. Because if you look at the distance between the beam over to your left, well, it's to my left, see, it's not, they could have not got to him to cut him down. They couldn't have done it. And there was no ladder there, or what there wasn't when I was there. And nothing of this stuff is high enough they could have got to him. There's still a long way to the ground in this photo. I mean, if Aaron hung himself, my mother tried to commit suicide a long time ago. She was very, very sick. And she meant to do it. I mean, there's just, like I said, it'd been a lot easier on me if he had done it. I'd be on a path, where I, it never gets easier when you lose somebody you
No.
love. Never. I don't care how you lose them.
Mm.
My dad was killed in a fuel tanker wreck. Uh, None. It don't get easier. You just get where I guess you get through the day with it. It's always there, but you manage to get through the day with it.
And
In Aaron's case,
what makes it
there
worse
was
is
just too many questions, too
you know
many
these people
inconsistencies.
that are involved. I mean, you know the family, you know the house, you know the family that
Oh
these people
yes.
were involved.
Uh
You live what? You live far away, but you
right.
used to live up there.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean,
you
I was privileged to grow up in that area. I mean, beautiful green hills, beautiful lakes. The community when I was growing up, the sense of community, the community they supported, they loved, and they cared each other about each other. I mean, it was a small town.
yeah.
The tourist industry at Del Hollow Lake was the biggest source of income in that area. Uh, you had the Oshkosh, a couple of little bitty factories, but when they went out, the only way to make money was good money would have been drive 100 miles to Nashville. When I left when I was 20, uh, I moved back in the late 80s for maybe 2 years. And things were starting to change then, but I thought, well, I want to move back to where I grew up. But the heartache, my mother and father, my grandmother, all the ones I loved, I lost there.
Yeah.
So, without them, it wasn't home to me anymore. And I left again, and I just never went back other than to visit. Uh, I would have never dreamed what it had turned into. The stuff I found out, it's really scary. It's big city scary.
Yeah.
And then I got to thinking, how could this happen in an area this small? But it's the ultimate place because when I was growing up, if something was wrong, people stood up and they asked a question. I found when something is wrong, even before Aaron died, people would not ask questions. And, me and my big mouth, if I want to know something, I'm going to ask it, and I don't care who I offend. Uh, because you can't learn anything if you don't ask questions.
Hmm.
And there is there's an evil there.
Which I want to talk about because, as opposed to you just, what we've talked about and everything, it's very clear he didn't do this to himself. But there was also some things happening that could give motive to why somebody would
Yes.
want to silence him in the first place. I mean, a few months before this happened, he had a conversation with you.
Aaron, me and both of my boys actually, more so than my daughter, always talked about everything. I mean, even their sexual experiences, they talked to mama about them.
Mhm.
And I valued that. And Aaron, one thing I would like to clear up, Aaron was not a CI. That is a paid informant. Aaron was staying at this house. What got him there was Karen. Karen had sticky fingers, and no one would allow her in her home. He rented a room from this man. He had a cousin that got a manufacturing charge, and I still don't know the gist of how he got pulled in, but they wanted to know the comings and goings of what was happening there, uh, the amount of drugs being sold. only at this particular location.
It was very isolated. I mean,
Yes.
it wasn't like he was making a career. He wasn't getting paid
No,
for it.
no,
He was
he
just,
was not. And at one point, actually, the homeowner's son approached Aaron and told him and another guy named Robert that he knew he was passing information to law enforcement and that he was going to kill both of them. And Aaron had approached me about, he called me. He said, Mama, he said, the homeowner's son and a guy had approached him about kidnapping young girls in Nashville and bringing them back up there. And he asked me, he said, Mama, what do I do? I said, call the law. And he said, Mama, one of them is the law. He gave me his name. And I didn't think a whole lot about it. But then he started calling me and telling me. Aaron refused to do that because Aaron has a daughter. Like I said, look at any picture in his group, of him with a child, you can see the connection, the affection, the protective mode for that child. He was the same about older people. He actually protected the old man at the house from his son because he had told me his son would take his money and make the old man do things he didn't want to do. But now you got to understand the old man had been selling drugs since the 70s as well. But he was getting on in his years. And Aaron wouldn't let nobody pick on older man. The thing about it is out there, Aaron has a protective instinct about most people. He had his run-ins with the law. Most of them were either drinking related or where he had been protecting somebody or keeping them from being picked on. He didn't like it. He wouldn't watch it. And he was a big man. He fought with these people. Some of these people involved in his death are actually his cousins. He had known most of these people since he was a young child. He went to school with some of them, actually at Hillhelm Elementary School. So these people were people he knew. Now, there's one or two that were there I didn't know. I knew their names, but as far as meeting them personally, I'd never met them. But the majority of them, I knew. After we listened to the interviews with all of them, oh, we loved him. Oh, we don't know why he'd do this. They did. There's not one of these people showed up for his funeral. Somebody they loved, somebody that was kin to him. And to me, that spoke volumes.
Oh, yeah.
And, when you have, I have statements where two girls actually spoke to the one that cleaned the crime scene up. And she stated she was busy. She had to get it cleaned up before the law got there. And these were also heard by both these girls' boyfriends. I have these statements. I tried to give them to law enforcement. Actually, two of them went to the detective that is now deceased, and he told them to mind their own business. Then went on to tell them that my nose is itching, had sent him over there to arrest them, that I said they murdered my son. That's his words. The detective's words, murdered my son. And I mean, generally where there's smoke, there's fire. And until December of 20, and 20, I'd filed for an FOIA with the county. A lady helped me fill it out to make it was filled out correct, because if it's not exact,
oh, yeah.
you won't get anything out of it. So this lady helped me. I sent it in, and the attorney a lady called me from the executive's office and asked me if I'd filed it. And I said I did. And she says, well, I can't give you anything because you won't agree to close the case. I said, that's right. And she said, TBI has it. I said, okay. I said, so you telling me that Overton County no longer has the case? She said, correct. Okay. So it was late in the day when I spoke with her. And for some reason, I decided to call back the next morning and make sure, that it had actually been somebody from that office that I'd spoke to. So it had been. Well, she called me again the following week. She worked up there one day a week and asked me what my problems was with the case. And I explained them to her, which I didn't have any problem. I'd blatantly put everything out on Facebook. And at the end of the conversation, she informed me that she was the attorney representing Overton County, which that was fine too. I would have, I would have still spoke to her and told her.
Mm-hmm.
So after I got off the phone with her that day, I got on the phone and called TBI. And during Aaron's, while he was there on the ground, Bryant Dunaway called and asked TBI to come in and do the investigation. It's roughly a 3-hour drive from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Hillham. A lot of really crooked roads in that area.
Yeah.
And I actually spoke with the gentleman, both of them, that they sent to the scene. And, I asked him if he had the case. He said no. He said, let me check. He said, no, TBI doesn't have this case. I said, okay. We talked a little bit, and he gave me his name. And he said, is this the case that was involving supposed puppies? And I said, yes. And he said, I remember that case. He said, we were called to do the investigation. He said, when we got there, they said the investigation had wrapped up, all interviews were done, and we weren't needed. They said there'd been a big party, and they came out and found him. And
well, that's story number 2 now, right?
Right. And I said, well, that's not what they told us. He said, well, what did they tell you? I said, they told us that my son and his girlfriend were there alone. He said, So then the next day, I don't remember this young gentleman's name, but I do have his phone number saved. I still have both of them's phone number. And Jason was very, very nice and telling me the conversation. He spent roughly about probably an hour on the phone with me. I mean, he was very forthcoming, straightforward with me. And he said, it is strange. I said, why would they call you and then you not let you do the investigation? He said, I don't know. He said, it's strange. I said, but you or TBI, nobody in TBI has this case. He said, no. Okay, then. So the mind, I didn't know where exactly to go with it at that point. So after I spoke with them, Bryant Dunaway called me somewhere around Thanksgiving, early December in 2020, and asked if I had filed that report that I was trying to get some of the documents. I said, yes, sir, I filed it, and I'd like to have whatever I could possibly get. And he said, I can't let you have anything unless you agree to close the case. I said, can I have my son's wallet? I said, Mr. Sidwell's about 30 days after had told me he'd try to get it for me. And I said, I still don't have it. I said, the DA in Livingston said they filed a report with the sheriff's department to get it and never got a response. I said, what is it about the wallet? I said, It belongs to my son. I says, his belongings belongs with his family. He said, well, he said, I can't let you have anything until you agree to close it. I said, hell will freeze over first. And I said, well, since I've got you on the phone, I said, I've tried to speak with you 4 or 5 times. And I said, I have some statements that, and some stuff that would uh, show probable cause that he didn't kill himself. And he said, well, would you speak with my detective? I said, yeah. I said, do you have a detective Slayton? He said, yeah. I said, he's the one I'd like to speak to, because I'd spoke with this man before. And we set up an appointment. It was around the 15th of December. My grandson went with me. I've never talked or went to any of these locations by myself. I've always made sure
Oh yeah.
somebody was with me. So when I got in there were 2 detectives. And at first, you could tell they was going to try to blow me off. About 15, 20 minutes into it, he realized that I had a lot of stuff. And he said, so you're going to share this with us? I said, yeah, I'll share. I'll help any way I can. So, hour and 15 minutes later, he asked me for a couple of the statements. I gave him 3. I gave him one where the person named one of the killers. I gave him one of the interviews from one of the girls that had spoke to the girl that claimed the crime scene, and I gave him another interview. He said, well, you're not going to give them all to me? I said, no. I said, you do something with these 3. I said, I'll give you everything I've got. And he said, what about the rope and stuff? I said, you do something with these 3. I said, I'll give you everything I've got. Uh, so he said, whatever you do, do not let anybody know we're looking into this. I can do that. Element of surprise. I get
Yeah.
that. So in August of 21, he still hadn't talked to any of these people, not any of them. So I outed him. Uh, I mean, they're trying to play hide and seek with a lot of stuff. And they took me for a poor, dumb, stupid hillbilly. I'm poor, but I'm not afraid.
Mm.
I'll fight for mine. I'll die for mine. They have intimidated people to the point up there. People will not speak to locals. The people that gave me statements won't speak to the locals. They would
Oh,
speak to
you
FBI or
know,
TBI, but
you
not
know,
the locals.
we're trying to what we're doing with this series, the Unraveling Tennessee, is trying to group all of these questionable cases together. So I have families reaching out, and I'm corroborating things, and we're getting things together. And when the families, they asked me straight up, they said, who are you? Where are you from? How do you know all this information? And I'm just like, oh no, I promise that you can verify me. I live all the way in Ohio. Like, they're scared. They're
Yes,
very
they
scared to.
are. And see, uh, I pretty much well assumed they thought I would just get tired and shut up and go away. It's been 33 months. It may be 33 years. If God puts the breath in my body, if you won't stand and fight for what's right, what are you? I mean, who are you? I mean, God puts us out there to do, we know right. And if you won't fight for what's right, then you won't fight for God. I mean, I've got a mouth on me. I'll cuss, but I believe in the Lord and Savior. He's the reason I'm standing here fighting.
Yep.
He is behind every move I make. And my son didn't die in vain. All I've asked is to have his death certificate changed for his children. Uh, I ain't worried about money. I've never had money. I mean, all that does is bring more evil. I'm happy as I am. I get by. I have food to eat. I'm
But
reasonably
children doesn't
healthy.
deserve to
I
have that
have,
out there.
I'm
That
blessed.
that didn't happen. They
But
deserve to have it really
if you're a mother and you know your child didn't do this, and you don't fight for that child, even though they're not physically here, what kind of mother are you? You're not. You're just a go along to get along like everybody else. I don't care to rock the boat. I've got enough
good.
word out there now. I've had death threats. I've had some of the strangest messages you've ever seen in your life. And when it didn't come out like they wanted it to come out, then they threatened me with having my child's body stolen, that I couldn't do a second autopsy if I didn't have a body. I mean, I can prove every word I'm saying. I mean, I don't have nothing nobody can sue me for defamation. Sue me. Then you've got to prove I'm lying.
Yep,
None of these people
absolutely.
have ever stepped up once and denied anything I'm saying. Not once. I mean, they called and said, "Well, we're going to kill you, put a bullet in your head, cut your throat. Uh, if you can do it, do it." You know,
But they
I'm,
never
you
said they
know,
didn't do it.
exactly. I mean, I'm right. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I've got, everybody's got something they're ashamed of in their past they wish they hadn't have done. I'm no different. But I will fight and die for my kids. And what I've brought up, what I've stirred up, these other people standing up, something good's going to come out of this. There has to be something good come out of something bad. And if these people stand up, get their voices back, and hold a district attorney that states in open court, I can do anything I want to, there's nobody above me. I mean, what? I mean, that's not a justice for the people by the people. That's a man, he's evil. I mean, it's wrong. Those people sitting, not being able to trust people that's, sworn to protect them. I'll never go back up there to live. It don't make no difference to me up there.
Oh no, like I've been
But
saying, we have our own little corruption everywhere. I have never seen
yeah,
that in like
it's there.
Tennessee,
It's everywhere.
but I've never
But
seen.
when you make it too obvious, I mean, you're blatantly doing it out. I mean, in the judicial system
Well, I
is
don't
answering.
understand this, but from going over the Holly Bobo case and learning a little bit about it, which is also from Tennessee,
Yes, it
let's
is.
just point that out. There was a law made to protect officers, and I want to know that law in and out enough to come talk about it, because I think what they did was they took very gross advantage of that law,
They
and I
do.
think that it should be repealed.
It does. You're talking about Tennessee's HD 335.
I want to know that
It's
law
what
in and out so I can come in here. I need somebody to break that down to me so I can come and I can help everybody
well,
else
what it
understand
does
how it needs.
basically. We have the federal FOIA, Freedom of Information Act.
Mm-hmm.
This basically goes against that. With it's in particular to the 911 calls. It makes them, if the law enforcement wants to let you have them, they can, but if they don't have to. Now, in my case, what they're withholding from me, it's sort of like blackmail. If you don't do this, we're
Yeah.
not letting you
Yep.
have this. But in Tennessee, when you sign off saying you close the case, you are agreeing that
Yeah.
you agree with their determination. Their determination, Overton County's determination, the DA's determination is bullshit in Aaron's case. And Aaron ain't the only one.
Hold on, Jen. Hold on. Jen, I want to start out with a petition. I think that would be a good to to petition to repeal the law to
Yes.
bring awareness that it's
Yes.
there. That's why I want to figure out what exactly all is in that so we can put it in that petition and start sending it out.
Well, and if you can Google it, and when I read it, I'm like, oh wow. And it was passed in 20.
Yeah.
But it was actually presented in 2017. Was the first time it was presented. It didn't pass till 20. It had been presented in 18
Well,
also.
it was made because and I'm not very familiar with Holly's case, but from the gist of it, the investigators murked it up so bad and botched it that they had to figure out a way to protect themselves from
Yes.
further. That's my
okay.
My husband's calling on Facebook. I'm sorry, guys.
But the people, we elect people. They're supposed to. Oh God, I got to get this one in while it's on my mind. I'm sorry. Governor Bill Lee recently signed a law into effect where people that received life sentences, their life sentences are going to be cut in half. Now, what that basically means, a life sentence can be 25 to 100 years. So people are supposed to be serving 25 years, come out in 12 and a half years. Okay, if you're not going to impose the correct sentences, what is the point? Because he said he was trying to save Tennesseans money. All he's doing is sending a signal to every criminal in the country, go to Tennessee to do your crime, you'll do half your time.
And then we can just show you. Then we can just show you what evidence or not evidence that we want to show you that we do. It's crazy.
It is. It is. I mean, if you're not, you've got lawyers, 7, 8 years in school, pass the bar examination, extreme amounts of money that the district attorney is controlling what's going on with the judges, the law attorneys that's supposed to be representing the people. The DA is telling them what to do. I thought attorneys were about loving to stand in the courtroom and fight and use their knowledge to prove, that a person was innocent. I mean, yeah, I'm sure some people are found innocent sometimes that are guilty. It happens, but more times than not, in this particular district, plea bargains. The DA in this district is the highest paid DA in the state of Tennessee, and I'm including he makes more than Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga, or Knoxville. Why? He controls 7 counties in that district, but the population in those 7 counties are not going to equal up to the population of Davidson County. There's something not right. There has been reports filed against this man. All that happens is they're sent back to him, and these people are harassed.
Yeah.
And
when I was talking
legal.
About I did Courtney's episode, and I aired her. The same DA told Courtney's family that the lost and never looked for knife that actually stabbed her was not a major factor in the case yet.
Yeah,
that is exactly what caused her, and it's ridiculous. It's
exactly.
Ridiculous.
And was the knife not found on top of the place like 2 years later, something like that?
Yeah, it was lost for 2 years, and then well, that wasn't even the knife that stabbed her. They never looked for or found the knife that stabbed her, and that's the one that's why he said it. Well, it's okay. It wasn't a big factor in her death, and well, she was stabbed. So
yeah. Well, see, the thing in that district,
it's so crazy.
From what I can see, is if you check the records, drug dealers the users, it's like a revolving door. Now, my theory is it generates federal funding comes by way of closed cases where you don't have any that are open under lengthy
Mm-hmm.
investigation. Murder trials, I'm told, cost in excess of $1 million. Well, when you in Aaron's case, there could be as many as 9 people. I don't think all of them would ever be tried for murder. A couple of them were just seen it, didn't
Seeing
try to
that,
stop it.
yeah,
Somebody
I do believe
cleanup
some people
person.
there didn't know what they were getting themselves, you know.
Yeah, there was actually a
Yeah.
couple of people outside the house
Mm-hmm.
when it happened. They heard, but they didn't see. So, in that case, they get more funding for
Mm-hmm.
more closed cases. Oh, they plea bargain these cases out up here. If people don't want to take the plea bargains, they're threatened. You either take it or we got some more charges. We have one lady in the district that has 4 bodies under her belt for selling bad drugs to. She
Because this
recently,
house that Aaron was supposed to hung them, they weren't just doing drugs; they were into. I will be right back. But
okay.
tell them about. I talked about that. They weren't just doing; they were selling and
Oh God,
manufacturing.
yes, yes. They were manufacturing. They were sex trafficking. They were moving illegal guns, stolen car parts. I don't know if I'm supposed to keep talking or not, but there was a lot of illegal
You keep talking.
activity.
I'm just gonna see what my husband. He's blowing
Okay,
me up. He's coming home from work. I will be right back. I promise.
okay. There was a lot of illegal activity in the area, at the house. There have been numerous overdoses. Like I said, they've been selling drugs since the 70s, and I could find one file for the homeowner for selling drugs was in 2005. This group has numerous over and over first offense cases. How many first offenses do you get? I don't know how many is allowed, but these are all plea bargain cases. They are padding their conviction rates, which gets more federal funding. Um, a lot of people, I know of a couple of people said they were railroaded into convictions when they didn't even commit a crime. Uh, in Aaron's case, I had a run in with the ADA. Uh, was told that I didn't have any choice in accepting whatever he decided. And of course, I asked him questions. I guess he's not used to having somebody asking questions, especially a female.
Yeah.
He, like I said, he said I didn't have any choice in accepting whatever he said. And I said, well, I have one last question. He said, okay. I said, well, upon the arrival of the autopsy report, I said, me and Detective Sidwell spoke about the report, talked a little back and forth. And I said, he said that he was waiting on a 5-page report on the rope. He says, well, there's no such report. I said, well, I have a recording of him stating that he was waiting on that report between me and him. Well, he hung up. I mean, never spoke to him again. So my respect for him and knowing how he's pushed others into taking plea bargains that when they weren't guilty of anything, I have no respect for this man. That's what kind of man works in the district attorney's office. And I'm not saying all of them's bad in there, because after I had my meeting in December, I had a call. Don't have a clue who it was, come from the restricted number. He told me, this man did. He said, have the detective, listen to the 911 call and listen to the girlfriend's statement again. He said something else, but I will not reveal what else he said. And there was nobody knew I was going to be in that office or was there, but the people in the DA office, my grandson who was with me, my husband, and a very close friend. Somebody in the DA's office is who made that call. Somebody who had access to know what was in in that 911 call and what was in that statement. So not all of them in that office can be bad. There's at least one good one in there. I think I have a theory who it is, but something it's a theory. But everything that I've put out, I can substantiate.
Mm-hmm.
The only things in it, timing may be off a little bit, uh, because I wasn't physically or actually there. But these people, the statements I have, a lot of these people, I have no idea who they are. But they contacted me. They called me on my phone, you know, uh, telling me, Lisa, Aaron didn't do this. And, you know, there's so many. The evidence, and when I saw the evidence that the DA had, the crime scene photos clearly showed there were no marks on Aaron's neck at all. I
There
mean,
sure was plenty of motive. That's
the
just
photo, the motive, Aaron knew way, way too much.
yes. I
He had
agree.
told me that he had been approached. He didn't tell me who by. He just said he'd been approached and they had threatened his family, his kids, and us. And he told them, he said, if you mess with my family, I'll tell everything I know. So Aaron's knowledge is what got him killed. Most of it, he's passed on a lot to me, and there's a lot of cases tied together. Lisa Gale Paul, she's tied to Aaron's case. Turkey Town, there've been 6 suicides, supposed suicides, uh, within a year's time. It's within a 5-mile radius. The little Ledbetter girl that's gone missing from out there, roughly a mile from where Aaron died. They knew each other. Caitlin and Aaron did. They knew a lot of the same people. Uh, Aaron was not a choir boy by any means. But I don't care if it's the Pope's son or it's your or my son out on the street. Everyone deserves the same treatment. In Aaron's case, protocols weren't followed. Uh, his hands were never bagged as evidence. They should have been. Uh, things on his broke nose wasn't listed on the autopsy report. The cut wasn't listed. The broken wrist wasn't listed on the autopsy report. I actually received a message in Messenger that I have that stated that the state ME had been paid off, which possible, not possible, I don't know. I can't honestly say, but I can say in the state of Tennessee that the medical examiner will go along with whatever the cop says at the scene. And there was a special done on that on MPT and PBS about it. And they say that as high as 44% of Tennessee's ruled suicides are in fact not suicides. Now, they were selling wasp dope out there. For those who don't know what it is, they take wasp spray, spray it on screen wire, shock it with jumper cables. It looks, acts just like meth. But the thing about it is what it does to the body,
Yeah.
what it does to the brain. It's incredible. And there's actually been law enforcement. At first, they thought I was crazy, but then they tested it and found, in fact, that I had told the truth yet again. There's actually been a young woman die as a result of that wasp spray. I actually got to see the autopsy report and toxicology. Uh, there's nothing that I've said that isn't the truth.
Which
But
if they unknowingly use that with that wasp
see
spray
that
in there, they should be charged with if they were
yes,
sold that and the person receiving had no knowledge, they
exactly.
should be
See,
charged with
Aaron tried to stop them from saying he would run out and actually tell people when they were trying to sell them this stuff, and they didn't like it. He cramped their style. Aaron
that. Yeah.
had this. Like I said, when it comes to life, Aaron, all life is precious. All life, and Aaron wouldn't let them. He wouldn't cross certain lines, and if he could stop people from hurting somebody that he knew what they were doing, then he would. He would try to stop it. And, it hurt their business because what they got down to, what they were trying to do was the good stuff they were trying to keep and use themselves because Mr. Sidwell had told me that he had actually walked up on the porch and saw the homeowner and his son passing a needle back and forth. He stood in the front window of the house and saw it. Now they have girls out there that were doing anything for the drugs, and that's the thing. Part of the sex trafficking, when you get these women, young girls, hooked so hard on the stuff, they'll do anything for
Yep.
it. I've been told tales of them having them in the floor just begging. They'd do anything to get it. And see, that's how they start these girls out. Uh, they've wrecked. I mean, there's one girl out there come from a very good family, beautiful woman, cheerleader. Her kids cheerleaders, athletes. Her children have nothing to do with her because she chooses to stay in that
Oh, it's
drug
yeah.
environment. And there's 4 or 5 women out there at a time staying with the homeowner's son now. They can't even keep the electricity on. I mean, it's crazy, but they're still doing their thing. They keep going to jail. They keep getting released. Like I said, on first offenses. The homeowner's son had a wreck in Jackson County, broke his legs, had 2 8-balls on it. They wrote him up. He never even bothered showing up for court. I mean, you've got court cases that disappear off the docket. First offense. I mean, he's had DUI after DUI. Always comes back as first offense. I mean, how many first offenses do you
It's
get? If they got me, I mean, if they would get, and I have to serve if they got me, they'd hang me in the jail like they do so many others. And there's a lot. When you step on the wrong set of toes up there, they manage to get you gone. That the reason I'm still alive is because I'm not there.
yeah.
But
My
I'm
husband,
not
he
going to
was like,
shut
when
up.
we started doing these cases, he's like, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I live all the way in Ohio. If they and I don't even have I said if they would have come get me all the way here, I said they're going to know where I went. They're going to know exactly
Yeah.
why I'm
See,
gone.
that's the reason. If you go
I'm
back
too
when I first started Justice for Aaron Shane Key, I put stuff in there. I'm telling you, if somebody had said to me what I've said to them, I would confront them first chance I had. That's just who I am. But not one of these people, not one, have ever denied anything I've said. They won't confront me when they could have. I mean, especially the cleaner. My son is buried where she to get to her house, she has to drive right by my son's grave. They're not going to keep me from putting flowers on my son's grave every year. And God knows if they touch, they don't need to bother his grave. That's just, it. Uh, somebody's got, somebody's got to do something. I'm 63. Still got a lot of mouth. I'm still a handful. But people are seeing what's going on. It's opening eyes, and cases 20, 30 years old are coming out of the woodwork. Finally, people are being able to ask the questions they want to ask. And it's about time. Public officials.
And I have been telling, like I said earlier, there was a family that was like, who are you? Where are you? Why do you know so much? Because they're scared. They're scared. And,
See,
one person, two people, they may be able to keep quiet, but I really believe
you can't keep an army quiet
together like this and putting it out in the open. People are going to start asking, what the hell is going on in Tennessee? And that's what we need.
Exactly. It is. I was talking to my cousin the other day. He said, you don't know, you do not even realize how many people still do not even realize this is happening. He said, but people are starting to see, they're talking, and see how they have kept this from getting out is they keep it out of the press.
Mm-hmm.
I was told, I got one outfit to talk to me, and I was told blatantly, she said, there's a large money being passed to keep all of this out of the news. She said, especially Aaron Shane Key's case. And
I mean, look at court. Like I was telling people, it's Tennessee. If that would have happened to Courtney Cash anywhere else, I feel, other than Tennessee, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
They won't put it in the news because they won't put it out there for other places to pick up.
Exactly. And you got Lauren Agee. Her mom spent every nickel she had trying to fight this bunch. And then you have a judge, her with statements. People testified in court in a civil trial, and the judge throws it all out. He said they were all liars. This is supposed to have been a jury trial, a civil trial. And when he threw that evidence out, that left Sherry with nothing. Even though she went to appeals court in Nashville and won, the evidence she had was done gone. The people that had testified before took the Fifth Amendment and couldn't be made testify again, all through intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and
what's going on today affects generations of tomorrow.
Yes, I say
some people are never. These kids, people are not going to miss what they don't know. You and I know what it is to make our own choices, to think we can believe in the law. This bunch in this area in Tennessee has proven we can't trust the law enforcement in Tennessee, and possibly not even the government. Because I've talked to the governor's office, I've talked to the attorney general's office. The only person who talked to me and I got return phone calls was David Roush of the TBI. He's the only one. The Tennessee State Attorney General said he had no authority over an elected district attorney. The governor said they couldn't do it, can't touch him. Well, what good are they if they don't have no authority other than taking our rights away from us, like HB 335 does? Now they're going to have to stand up and ask questions. Do you want your kids and grandkids living through this? My son ain't the only victim.
Oh no!
By any means.
You were just
It's not just about Aaron anymore. We've got Joshua Bohannon missing. The boy's been missing since June. Since June, his family has got little but no help from this district, from Putnam County Sheriff's Department.
And he's a type 1 diabetic. He's insulin. And they're saying
Yes,
he just decided to walk away with none of it.
yeah, he just walked away. And then you got Caitlin Ledbetter walked off into the woods in
After
pajamas
jumping
and barefooted.
7 feet out of her window in
Right.
pajama shorts, and it just.
Now you think about this. Caitlin, the description I've got is she's about 5'3" or 4,
Yeah.
160 pounds. That's a pretty good drop. You're probably going to break something, sprain an ankle. Makes no sense. Then the house conveniently burns with the dad's girlfriend in the basement, which many have said the victim was chained to the wall, and that come from some of the firefighters themselves. So, I don't know if the lady was chained in or not, but I do know there was a door in the basement. Why didn't she just go out that door if the house caught on fire? There's too much.
So many questions.
Exactly. And when you've got more questions than you have answers, something's wrong.
Well, I told you, like I tell everybody, the more families that come forward, I tell them, you can come speak for yourself like Lisa does, or, Courtney Cash's mom, she's going through stuff medically, so she couldn't, but she sure gave me what I needed to come on and talk, and she was
exactly. And we've had some people talk about really how well you did. I mean, they spoke to me about you.
I'm getting better. I'm not a public speaker. I'm very opinionated and very passionate on campus.
You might should change your mind about being a public speaker, because you allow you people that's doing these podcasts. We can't get regular media to cover it. You guys have given us a voice.
But if we all start covering the same cases, just hand them off to each other and create this, they're going to. I mean, we'll be our own mainstream media. We won't even need them.
There you go. And now, and Courtney Cash, her mom had put up a billboard. Today actually is an anniversary for Cindy. The last message she got from Courtney. She may be putting the billboard back up today, but the billboard said the exact same thing we wanted to put on the billboard that had 14 of the victims of the 13th district in them. Well, we've bumped up against that, and it's an election.
Denied it.
Yeah, but there's still a possibility it may go up. But the thing is, it's an election year. You got one victim up there opposed to 13 more beside it. That don't look good, and they don't want that. But that billboard is also going to inform the community of what they're not doing.
I have this. This is what I put on my TikTok. So I'm going to play it real quick, and I'll show you what you're talking about. This is the bill. And just down there below, I have all the names in the banner, and that's the one that you're talking about.
Yeah. So, we're being denied air rights now. But see, if the law denies you your rights, it's okay. But they're breaking more laws than the criminals that they're putting in jail. I mean, people with driver's license infractions are going to do more time in jail than the drug dealers or the users. Why? They have to. This guarantees more cases to keep the attorneys busy. That equals to more padding of the conviction rates, which in turn more federal revenue.
Yeah.
But where's the federal revenue going? What are they doing with it? They're not using it to own cases. But I've got one case I'm trying to get brought in I'm trying to, if I can get her to relinquish her transcripts, it is a judge saying that the district can't afford to try murder cases in open court. Okay, if you're not going to try them, why arrest anybody? Yeah, just let it be a free for all. We'll take care of ourselves. You take care of you, we'll take care of us. At least we keep our taxpayers' money. I mean, you've got a ban list in the Putnam County Courthouse of people that made a comment about Josh Bohannon's case. People banned that's never set foot in that jailhouse, that only made a comment. And then their attorneys pop up and say, well, this is not a ban list. It says plainly on the top of the Putnam County Sheriff's Office headliner, it's a ban list. I mean, they don't want to help that family. Why? What have they got to hide that they don't step up and do their job?
Yep.
They're hiding something.
Yep.
They just had a boy die in jail. Overton County beat the Hargis guy to death. Beat him to death. And I pray this girl stands up and tells her story.
Oh, yeah. I hope they all do.
I believe in my heart a class action lawsuit against this district, naming each and every one of them that has anything to do with any of the injustices, will stop it.
Yeah.
But it's got to be one that represents everybody that wants to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they can sit back and they can still be scared. And then their kids, when it knocks on their door, they have nobody to blame but themselves because they didn't try. That's one thing when I leave this world. I tried to make a difference because I'd give anything on earth for that place I grew up in to exist again. You don't even see people walk the street in broad daylight. What is wrong with that? There's no jobs in there anymore. Police department, the bank, city department, in the summertime at the lakes. There's nothing to do. Make dope, sell it, or use it. It's a cesspool. It's just a deep, dark hole. I call it the gateway to hell. And it wasn't that way when I grew up. I've sat and I look back, and I remember playing softball when I was in 8th grade against, we had a small junior high team, bunch of good girls though, playing in tornado warnings, mud knee deep, rain you barely could see. The whole community stood and watched these games. That's how tight that community was.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, somebody's house burnt. The community had charity events, made money, helped build their house back. I mean, it was a true sense of community. And God, it was a privilege. It was a great privilege. And some of these people still live there. These people don't stand up and talk like I do. You know, I was shy in school, got picked on. Well, I got a mouth now. And they probably ain't enough duct tape to duct tape it shut. But somebody's got to do it. I wish I hadn't have had to do it as a result of losing my son. But there's a big picture here. And it's not a pretty picture.
No.
And,
from the time you first came to me, you said, you told me about Aaron, and then you said, but Ashler, he's not the only one.
No.
He's not.
And that ridge, like I said, Turkeytown Ridge holds a lot of deep, dark secrets. A lot of the same people are involved that was involved in Aaron's. A lot of the same law enforcement is involved that's involved in Aaron's. Keeping me from getting access. They let me view what they had. I'm not sure they let me view everything. I mean, I didn't get to physically see the piece of rope they had, but I got to see the pictures. And I got to give Randall Slayton something. He took some good pictures because they show clearly there was no marks on Aaron's neck. And for whatever reason at the time, when I took 3 people with me to look at the stuff, if I'd went by myself, they could say, no, she didn't see this. No, she didn't see that. You can't discredit 3 of us. You can't. So,
Now,
and the
now,
one
while
that's,
we're on it, what did they contribute? Because I seen it in the reports that you sent me. They contributed the markings on his face due to what? Yeah, I want to point that out for everybody.
2-week-old puppies. 2-week-old puppies
Just so
done
everybody's clear.
extreme blunt force mass trauma. 2-week-old puppies. The TBI agent even found that unbelievable. It's not believable. I mean, there's sometimes their eyes aren't even open. But the
No.
thing about it is, they let him lay on the ground, uncovered, for 8 hours I know of. They wouldn't even let his dad get to him to hold him. The paramedics came in. I recently found this out. And then left and returned back. You're not supposed to leave a body. I mean, there was no protocols followed whatsoever. Everybody at the scene was supposed to be separated. Everybody was kept on the front porch. The law never entered the house, or they would have found the bleach smell, because the bleach smell was still there when I went out there on Tuesday. I had to step. My senses are extremely sensitive to a lot of stuff, but I had to back out of the house because of the smell. It burnt my eyes and nose so bad. It might not hit everybody else like that. You have my husband's statement was handwritten, whereas Crystal and Russell's were recorded. Why didn't they record his dad's? He asked them why. They told him they didn't have that equipment, but yet they recorded the other 2.
Yeah.
They wrote a statement out for Hack Cox that Hack never gave. They wrote it out, went and knocked on the door, and asked him to step outside and sign it. If they'd have went in the house, they'd have found the girl that had been hidden and recorded the whole thing with a cell phone. And I've got to get it and I'll send it to you. A girl posted on Facebook where the girl said she recorded the whole thing. She called her out, straight out on Facebook. I mean, so like I said, there's nothing I've said that isn't true. And my theory why they didn't take the rope and hat. First of all, they didn't take that rope because they know Aaron's DNA isn't on the upper portion of that rope. But the killer's is. They didn't take his hat. Probably DNA from somebody else also on that hat. But, I will say I wore it for a little bit because I didn't realize it was dried blood. I had no idea until somebody pointed it out to me. But all of this, the liquor bottle of the rope has never been handled. It's been put away.
I was going to pop that picture up because you can even tell in the photo here that there are gloves on.
Right.
I mean, you have taken every precaution to preserve it.
Yeah, it's been put away. It's locked away. Getting it tested is another thing. I'm learning a lot, but I still haven't learned that part of who or where to take it for independent testing, because nobody is getting the rope to keep, because that's all I have.
Yeah.
I will not relinquish custody anywhere it goes. I go. I'll be happy to give samples off of it, off the hat. there's fingerprints on the liquor bottle, and there's DNA on it. Why did they leave all that? Because they knew Aaron's wasn't on it. So,
And all you need is some help. Just getting
yeah.
it tested. Where to
I mean,
go?
I get where people think, well, she's the poor grieving mom, don't want to accept, that he done it. I know what suicide is. I know what attempted
Even if,
suicide is.
even in if he really did hang himself, would they really leave the top of the rope? Would they leave
I
all of this behind?
know
Like, it just doesn't make sense.
protocols, no protocols were followed at all. I
No.
mean, like I said, his hands should have been bagged for evidence, for scrapings to see if there was somebody else's DNA under his nails. I mean, he should have been covered up where the puppies couldn't get to him. But the big thing here is you have to think, why? If it was a suicide now, why was it roped off as a crime scene? Why was it roped? Why? I believe in the initial stages there was going to be an investigation. I believed when the bigger folks arrived there, all this is going to turn into a big murder trial. We can't do this. We're going to go this way. Because that man stood and called every shot. People think that I blame the detective totally. I do not. I believe, God bless his heart, he passed away at Aaron, like 16 days, being 42 years old. The detective passed away at 42 years old, fully vaccinated, healthy from COVID. I went to school with his parents. I know what kind of people his parents were. Like I said, I'd never met him other than the one time when I had to ask him the question, and I got the answer I needed. He didn't give me an answer, but he still gave me an answer.
Right.
But one of my fears is they will try to use him as the scapegoat, and his family don't deserve that. And orders come down.
It's very easy when somebody's not here to defend themselves.
Exactly. And orders come down from the top to the bottom. They kept us from having anything other than the autopsy report. We've never got to see the which I'm not sure I could look at them, the autopsy photos, if there is any. I want to know if there was any x-rays taken from him, because based on what the mortician said, he said he looked like they had been one hell of a fight, which I would interpret all these people were significantly shorter than Aaron. Which means he would have probably had to had some damage, bruising to the other parts of his body. Mm-hmm. On one thing, when Aaron's dad dropped him off that day, he was wearing a dark blue thermal shirt. It was still a little bit cool in early spring. He had on jeans, a belt, and had on a pair of brown tennis shoes. Crime scene photos show him laying on his left side in a curled up fetal position. His left hand is under his body. His right shoulder was threw back just a little bit, and his right hand was on his right leg, sort of. The rope hung down from his Adam's apple, probably maybe 5 inches, which, it should have been tied around his neck. The knot, in the rafters, it shows that, it never was tightened around the beam, or the knot never tightened up. See, his weight, that thing would have cinched up tight and into that beam. But the thing in the crime scene photos is he was wearing what appeared to be a brand new white short sleeve t-shirt. His belt was undone. His pants were undone. He had on a pair of lace up snakebiter boots that laced to your knees. They were totally unlaced all the way to the bottom. Now, if he was fighting and kicking with her with his hands and feet, those boots would have come off his feet. I mean, there's just too many things that says too many questions, you know. And the faint mark that they say is around his neck is supposed to be like 2 inches wide, where it's got on the autopsy. Said faint purplish mark.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got it shows where it's at. You know, him hanging that high, that much weight, like I said, it slipped up around his jawbone. There's no way it could have stayed down. The neck would not have supported that weight. But, I mean, how did his clothes? That shirt, he was laying in the dirt. That shirt didn't have a speck of dirt on it. You could see in the crime scene photos. Not nothing. And the crime scene photos we've showed didn't even show the rope hanging on the beam. You could have stood behind somebody and pull it on it and put that mark on your neck.
See, that's what I was going to say. That's more of a mark if they were trying to take. He was a big guy.
Exactly.
And,
I mean, his position. Russell told the detective and told Aaron's dad that he done CPR on Aaron. You can't do CPR on somebody that's in a curled up fetal position.
Yeah. And if they would have cut him down, wouldn't you think that he would have either fallen more on his back or to the front? Or why would they have laid him in the fetal position if they would have? He would have been on his back.
And
that's how you perform CPR.
Exactly. I mean, there's just too much for it to be what they say it was. Also, in the autopsy report, it said he had urinated on himself. When the clothes were returned to us, and no, the white T-shirt was not part of what was returned to us. That didn't come. The blue shirt he had on when his daddy dropped him off, the boots, the pants, and the belt, and his underwear. And he had on a pair of jogging pants under his denim jeans. That was also returned. And the boots, the brown tennis shoes, we didn't get them. We didn't get no white T-shirt either. So somewhere in all of this, there was time and a reason for the white T-shirt. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. But I can tell you, all the clothes, including the boots that was returned to us, were soaking wet. His suitcases, they had actually took his suitcases and set them out in the shed with him. They were soaking wet. Their contents
because he was leaving. Wet. Him and his girlfriend at the time. He woke up that morning and decided to leave. He went to spend the day with his dad.
Yeah,
but he came out. He was leaving.
Yeah, and he when Hack
that's another motive.
When Hack dropped him off, he told him to come back somewhere around 5 o'clock. He'd give him his rent money back for the month. And that's the reason he went back. But like I said, they said that he had tried to set his suitcases and everything on fire, yet there were no singe marks, no smell of accelerants, nothing. And his clothes did not smell of urine. There was one person said that Karen put that part of the rope around his neck and said, "You gone now, you son of a bitch," because he was leaving her. Karen was Aaron. Aaron had done drugs on occasion. Drugs never gave Aaron what he needed. It was alcohol. And he had finally got to where instead of guzzling drinking to get drunk, he'd just sip it a little bit. He'd come a long, long way. And for him to still have that half a pint in his back pocket says a whole lot to me, because I can remember when he was a whole lot younger when he'd just down a half pint like it
And
wasn't
I can
anything.
relate. Back in the day, I dabbled in a little bit of drugs here and there, but alcohol was
But that
my
was, yeah, Aaron, that was
I can
where,
relate.
but he couldn't keep, when Karen, when he run out of money and he couldn't keep up her habit, then she would turn to other men. I mean, let me see if I've got my dates right here. On the third, before he died, he'd been out and detailed a car. He was really, really good at stuff like that. He come in and walked in the room, and she was going down on Russell. Of course, there
Now,
was a
Russell's dad was the same guy who dropped off Aaron at
yes,
where his father was that morning, right?
yes, yes, yeah. And Karen had been known to do the older man too for drugs. On the fourth, they had a child out there named Colby. Colby, Aaron just worshipped Colby. Colby was doing homework or something, and a couple of them were picking actually the young man's mother and my son's cousin. Were trying to jump on Colby. Aaron told him to leave him alone. He's the only one out there that's ever going to amount to anything. And I ain't going to. Rufus went and told his other cousin Aaron. There's two Aaron. Actually, there was three Aaron Keys, and yeah, it could get confusing. But he went and told his other cousin. He said, "Won't you just help me kick his big ass? He's a smart ass." And the other Aaron told him, he said, "Man, we're family." He said, "Just go talk to him." And Rufus said, "Screw that," and had a pair of brass knuckles in his hand. Aaron was beat with brass knuckles. The cut on his eye, and when we listened to the 911 calls, I could hear a man say, "Give me a knife." That's where I think where the cut on Aaron's eye come from, because it was as straight as if it was cut with a scalpel. And then days and years ago, they would cut, the eyelids where they had to see what was coming. They couldn't close their eyes. And I believe that's where that cut come from. I may be wrong, if they can prove me I'm wrong, then, I'll be
Well,
happy to
regardless, I mean, if
apologize.
it was a hanging, there should not have been any of those to begin with. So,
No, if,
should not.
you know, their story was there's a bunch of them just pulls up all at once. They all go up there and they try to cut him down, which means they would have tried to lay him down on the ground without hurting him. But I mean, broke
I don't.
nose, big cut, and the cheek. I believe the cheeks on the right side. I believe that it was crushed. The eyeball was fully deflated.
Not to bring it up, but even after the funeral home got him ready for his funeral, I mean, his one eye, you can still see
Yeah,
that there was something happened to that
they
eye.
actually told me that they had to borrow wax from another funeral home to have enough to fix him. They left it up to us whether to open him or not. Uh, and his sister, God bless her, she was supposed to have helped me pick things out. She didn't make it, but when we brought him out, they let the family see him first and left it up to us whether we wanted to leave him open. And she went over him with a fine tooth comb. She's actually the one that found the broken wrist. She
What
went
you
around
can
his
also
neck
see.
behind. They were supposed to have done a full cranium autopsy on him. We could find no marks, nothing of where the back of his head had been taken off. They said to look behind his ears. We looked. I mean, and there was on his neck, there was no makeup on his neck. They didn't have to use it. Aaron tanned real easy. There's a lot of Indian in the family. Even though he was blonde, there was a lot of Indian in the family. And, but the eye looked bad enough that she put his sunglasses on him. She put his favorite pair of sunglasses on him. You could see the damage still. They couldn't cover everything. They done the best they could.
Now,
but
what hand? I can't remember from looking. What wrist was it?
The
was
right
it his
wrist.
Left. It was his right.
No, his right wrist was broke. Well, yeah, you can see.
Because in the pictures that you do, yeah, you can see. And like I said, I've broken both my wrists before at separate times, but you can see where in his wrist, and I mean, you can see there's a certain ball that happens after you break it.
Right.
I mean, you can still see it very clearly.
You can see plainly. And there was a girl looking at it the other day, pointing out a bruising on his arm that actually looks like there's a bite mark on his arm. I had never noticed it. I've got, truthfully, I try not to look at it. It's not easier. All it does is tend to enrage me. The nearly 300 miles between here and there is a good thing for me. Because, that'd give me enough time to cool off. I've got a bad temper. I always have had. His dad, they wouldn't let him to Aaron. They couldn't have kept me away from him.
Yeah.
But after looking at the autopsy report, one of the initial things in it said that I don't know how you pronounce it. It's ASTYOLES/slow PEA. You can't shock somebody with that first word. But with the second part, they can be revived up to 4 or 5 hours. But, the brain damage at that point would be, they'd be brain dead. But the point is, I don't know what time the paramedics got there, but they left the scene after checking him. They did not try any CPR whatsoever. Why? Why did they not? Why did they leave the body and come back? I don't, I've still got to do some research on this one. I don't know that they're supposed to do that.
I wouldn't imagine. Wouldn't they have to stay until at least the coroner got there or something?
Let me tell you about the coroner. If you're a high school graduate and have no felonies in the state of Tennessee, you can be the county medical examiner, which means I could be the county medical examiner in Tennessee, because even with I have no medical training or anything, I can still be that county medical examiner. And according the way the process works in Tennessee is the detective will send a small note into the medical examiner, says, well, this is apparent, blah, 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 blah. And if they get a third of the way through that autopsy and decide, well, we're going to go along with what the county said, that's where it stops. Then they go along with what the officer says. So now you've got a untrained police officer determining the cause of death. What do we need a coroner or a medical examiner for them. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. Uh, Again, some more bullshit. And when I found my sister actually found it, I sat with hours and for hours and sat and stared at that screen in disbelief. That is why the rulings, why the special said so much of road suicides were in fact not, because police officers, untrained medical police officers, are deciding he committed suicide. He committed suicide. And that 13th district has the highest suicide rates in the state of Tennessee. Somebody's making money off of this. Somehow they're making money. I do know when the ME, whether they're with them 15 minutes or 8 hours, they get paid the same amount of money. Something's happening somewhere. But the thing is, a national broadcasting system aired this program. They wouldn't air such a program if they didn't have proof. It's crazy. So, something happens to me, I don't want the law ruling my death.
Yeah, you got that right.
Because they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, there's supposed to be another lady, I haven't found her name yet, but I will, on Turkey Town. It was on Benton Tidwell Lane in particular, that was found the same way Aaron was. Exact. Her husband was a paraplegic in a wheelchair. No way he got her down.
No.
But there's a common friend in this.
Oh, I'm not shocked at this point.
No. There's a lot more to it. I mean, when, we had one say that she thought I'd cooked up me and another girl had cooked up a thing. There ain't no cooking to it. I mean, evidence supports itself. You saw the autopsy report. Yeah. You saw the girl's photos. So, but I think it was cleared up. People for whatever reason don't want this guy's name spoke of. When I posted it on Facebook, a lot of people didn't like it. But, oh well.
Yeah.
Stuff happens.
And like I said, for everybody calling you out and saying that you're lying, and the only thing that I could think of is, then where are the people saying that she's lying?
Exactly.
Where are they?
And if I'm lying, sue me. Take me to court. Then you got to prove that I'm a liar. That's why they're not saying nothing. Because, see, the burden of proof is going to fall on them to prove I'm a liar.
And even people telling me, I've had a few people tell me, you probably shouldn't take this case because it's going to ruin your credibility. Nobody's going to want to come talk to you again. But when I would ask those same people for legitimate proof on this, they could. That's where they would always come short. They would never have. It was just talk. It was just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Aaron's case, I get that you can stand and look at it on both sides. That's what objective people do.
Yes.
And like I said, initially, I knew he done it. I did. Until, and even after I saw the damage, the calls that kept coming in over and over from different people that they had talked to and bragged to, where there's smoke, there's fire. You've got to look. I know now 100% in my heart, a second autopsy will prove, that he was never hung. I know that if that rope was tested, it'd prove his DNA isn't on it. it after a little while, when the initial shock wears off, that's when you start looking and asking the real questions. Why is this? Why is that? And then when you bow up against law officials, I don't know. Well, I don't know. And then they stop talking to you. And you give them, it's like I told them where Aaron's cell phone was at. Aaron's the very one he was trying to get out of the manufacturing uh, charge, destroyed the cell phone. Why? Had a lot of information in it.
Oh,
But
that
you
would.
know what? I've got one of his cell phones too. I've got all his numbers he had. They can go back and they can pull them. It's just, I'm not giving anybody anything till the right people step
Yeah.
in. And then I'll never relinquish custody. They can take their samples. I'll sit right there with it. I'll sleep with it. If I have to sleep in a lab with it, it will never leave my out of my custody, because I know that's the one things, the cousin, me and her had always been close. She turned on me like a pit bull when I asked for that phone.
Which
And
is.
me and her were always real close. But she is protecting all of her dealers. Aaron had phone numbers in there, and I believe there's phone numbers in the phone that will tie to the police officers. Text messages, I
Oh
believe it's
yeah.
there. And it can be recovered. And see, all I wanted was a death certificate change. That's all I wanted for his kids. Now, anybody that gets caught in the crossfire, it don't matter. They're collateral damage to me, because they didn't care enough to do right.
Right.
Because, yeah, my son drank some. He'd had some run ins with the law. They wasn't serious, some of them almost comical. Uh, but Aaron had a place, a moral compass he couldn't cross. And that's where he run into his problems with them, because they didn't have that same moral compass. He he couldn't he couldn't see people hurt young kids, kidnap young girls for sex. That's not who he was. And he stood his ground. He stood, and told him, "You mess with my family, I'll tell everything I know." That would have been the instance. He would have told everything. He absolutely would have. But he told me that they had threatened us. I told him, I said, "Don't worry about us. We can handle us." But Aaron wasn't that way. He protect. There's not a one family, uncle, cousin, aunt that Aaron wouldn't have died for. That's who he was. Uh, he wasn't afraid to stand alone, and he did.
And
I
I
just
fully believe, because of the things that he knew, I think
that's
everybody had a little bit of a hand in motive
they
and
did.
reason.
Damn, I'm trying to get rid of this. Hang on. There we go. They did.
Oh, I think she must have accidentally. She'll pop back in. I do. I believe that's exactly. I think there are more plausible causes for a cover up than for him to actually have. I mean, there was over 9 people there. For him to, even if he wanted to, even if he was going to go out there and do this to himself, I think there were plenty of people there that could have stopped it. Um, there was just too many people there, too many stories, and too many things that Aaron knew about everybody. No, he wasn't a snitch. He wasn't going around. If you go ask anybody, there was not one person that would call Aaron a snitch. This was a very isolated event that he was helping somebody out with. And it was his cousin. And I think we have a lot more motive for him to want to be silenced, and the fact that this I believe if it would have happened anywhere else but Tennessee, I think it would have had a closer look at it. I cannot believe for the things that were happening in that house as far as the drug dealings. This was a family that had been around for a long time. Um, the fact that Aaron was asked to help in sex trafficking situations, you can't tell me that the district and these people, they didn't know. I mean, this family alone was dealing drugs for generations. You can't have these things done to this extreme and it not go unnoticed. And whether they had a hand in it directly, or if all of these things were brought to light, they would get caught with their cheek turned the other way. Either or, that makes them complicit. They know. You can't tell me this happens and they don't know about it. It's happening too much for them not to know about it. Um, I am not sure what happened to Lisa, but if she decides that she can come back on, we will be back on. I just want to go over, while I have the chance. I have a page on Facebook. It's called the same thing, True Crime Spotlight. I have gotten every family's approval that I want to start this. Now on Facebook, I'm doing an event. It's a paid event. We're only asking 99 cents to get in because to me, 99 cents can go a long way. All the names that you see listed here, I have Aaron Shane Key, Diana Gonzalez, Patrick Chapman, Karen Bodine, and the 13th District Awareness. I changed that. If you do happen to go into the event, it's changed to just Tennessee. Because we have started to just group all of these together, run these cases together. So that will be changed, but all of these cases and these names that you specifically see are all families that I have personally talked to. They have personally come spoken for themselves or are going to be speaking inside of this event. Um, I know Karen Bodine or her daughter Carly is going to come. Also, Karen's best friend at the time. They both want to come speak inside this event. Patrick Chapman's family and advocates want to come speak. I know Diana Gonzalez's family will be come speaking for her. And of course, Lisa, who was just on here with me, speaking for Aaron Shane Key. Like I said, the 99 cents families do not pay. Please don't. Please reach out to me and message me because I have a little key that I can give you and you can get in for free. It is all linked to the same PayPal. For the people on YouTube that do not have Facebook and can't join this event, I do have that same PayPal. Sorry, my son's barking. My son's barking at the door. They're getting antsy out there. I have that same PayPal linked to my YouTube account here, and we're going to run this event on Facebook. I have it. It's open for starting today for exactly a week. I could change it, leave it open for as long as possible. I just want you to know that 100% of the donations given, they all go to the families here. You heard Lisa speak on some things that she needs done for Aaron Shane Key, Diana Gonzalez family. They really want to, most of these they just really want private investigators, second looks, people to come in and help them get with which each of them need that they are not getting and that they're crying out for. And I want to do more than just run their stories. I want to create a community that wants to give back to these families that come on here and start doing more for them. I just want to do more. I live my life thinking, what if? And so it's very easy for me to put myself in imagine. Right now, my husband's at work and I have my door locked because I'm here by myself and my two kids. It's no joke. I It's that what if I live by. And I just want to help these families. I don't want to just run their stories. I want to help them get that coverage, but I also want to help start knocking these things off of their list. So if you are interested in that, by all means, like I said, I am just asking for 99 cents. Once you're into the event on Facebook, there will be plenty of further ways to donate to each of these families' causes for their loved ones. Here on YouTube, the PayPal is the same PayPal. And then once we decide to close out this event, it will be split equally among 100% to these families in efforts to get their stuff done. So I will be hopping off of here and I will be going straight to my Facebook and I will be publishing the event and we will get that on its way and undergoing. But like I said, if you're just strictly YouTube, that's fine. The same PayPal is linked to the PayPal or linked to the YouTube here. So you can donate that way also. And I just want to reiterate, we're just asking, I feel 99 cents could turn into thousands. And that's what I'm hoping for. So please, I encourage you to support, join the groups, and you guys have a good rest of the day.